What's your favorite a man walks into a bar joke? A ship captain walks into a bar. He has an eye patch and a peg leg, and also a ship's wheel in his pants. The bartender asks, hey, does that eye patch ever get itchy? May, lat, now make with the grop, says the captain. What about that peg leg? It's got to be annoying. Nay again, lat, you get used to it. But that ship's wheel in your pants. Aye, it's driven me nuts. An Irish man walks out of a bar. Impossible. A priest, a rabbi and an imam walk into a bar. The bartender says, what is this? Some kind of joke? 3 men walked into a bar. The fourth one ducked. A grasshopper walked into a bar and the bartender said, we've got a drink named after you. And the grasshopper said, what, Trevor? A piece of string walked into a bar and the bartender said, we don't serve string here. So, a little dejected, the price of string left. Outside on the street another piece of string was about to enter the bar and the first piece of string said, oh, don't go in there. They don't serve string there. The second piece said, that's okay. Watch this, and ruffled up his hair and twisted and distorted his body and then walked in. The bartender yelled, oh, are you a piece of string? I just told your mate that we don't serve string here. They string looked at the bartender and said, sorry mate, I'm afraid not. A man walks into a bar. There is a big, strong looking stallion in the corner and people are talking to it. The man approaches the bartender and asks, what's with the horse? The bartender simply replies, if you can make the horse laugh, you get $100. The man thinks for a second and walks over to the horse. He whispers something into the horse's ear and the horse laughs. The man goes to collect his reward. While giving him the cash, the bartender asks, you know, you're the first person all night that was able to make him laugh. How did you do it? The man smirks and leaves. A week goes by and the man goes back. This time, the horse is there, but with a new event. He approaches a bartender, tilts his head and nods towards the horse. Still, he asks, oh no. The bartender replies, this time you need to make him cry. The man gives another smirk. He walks over to the horse, says something, and the horse laughs. He then fumbles around in front of him for a second, and then the horse begins to cry. The man goes to collect his money, and the bartender insists he tells him how he keeps doing it. The man says, well, the first time I told him my dick was much larger than his. This time, I showed him, too. Two conspiracy theorists walk into a bar. You can't tell me that was just a coincidence, man. Conspiracy theorists do not frequently go to bars because they prefer to avoid drinking Kool-Aid. 2 men walk into a bar. You'd have thought one of them would have seen it. The past, present, and future walk into a bar. It was tense. This joke is humorous due to the timing. A dyslexic walks into a bar. A duck walks into a bar and says to the bartender, I'd like to buy some peanuts. The bartender says, sorry, don't sell peanuts. The duck leaves. The next day, the duck returns and again says, I want to buy some peanuts. The bartender replies, a bit gruffly this time, I already told you I don't sell peanuts. The duck leaves. The next day, the duck comes in once again and yet again demands, I want to buy some peanuts. The outraged bartender yells back, I told you, I don't sell peanuts. If you ask one more time, I'll nail you to the wall. The duck leaves. The next day, the duck walks into the bar, and before the bartender can say a word, the duck asks, do you have any nails? The bartender looks taken aback and says quietly, sorry, don't have nails. The duck asks, well then, do you have any peanuts? An Englishman, Scotsman, and Irishman walk into a bar and begin drinking. Soon they noticed a large glass vase of gold coins in the corner and asked the barman what was it there for. The barman told them, that is, there is the prize for anyone who can drink a full bottle of tequila in 2 minutes. 2 go into that room over there with a lion inside and pull a thorn from the lion's foot. 3 finally go upstairs and make love to a 100-year-old woman. The prize money was too much for the men to pass over, so they agreed to try. The Englishman goes first, but after only half the tequila he collapses drunk. The Scotsman is next. He downs the tequila and staggers to the lion's room. The door is closed, and there is a massive scream, and soon afterwards he stumbles back out of the room with his hand bitten off. The Irishman drinks a tequila and stumbles towards the lion's room. The door is closed behind him, and almost immediately there are massive screams and shouts coming from behind the door, screams which last for nearly 10 minutes. There is banging up against the sides of the door and everything, and then silence. The Irishman emerges battered, bleeding and torn. Now he says, "Where is that lady with a thorn in her foot?" It's business as usual for a bartender, and one day as he is cleaning his bar, when an unusual customer walks in. The man is dressed in an expensive suit, has a beautiful supermodel hanging off each arm, and has a limo parked outside. Furthermore, the man has an orange for a head. The customer sits down at the bar and orders everyone a drink. He pays for it from a roll of hundreds and manages to get the attention of every woman in the joint, despite having an orange for a head. The bartender is not a man to pry, but he feels compelled to ask about this man's life. "Excuse me," says the bartender, "I can't help but notice that you're obviously fabulously wealthy and irresistible to women, but you have an orange for a head. How did that happen?" So the man told his story. "A while back, when I was penniless, I was walking along the beach and saw an old lamp, half buried in the sand. I picked it up and gave it a clean, and poof, out popped a genie." The genie explained that he had been trapped in that lamp for 200 years, and that he was so grateful to me for freeing him, that he would give me 3 wishes. For my first wish I asked for an unlimited fortune. The genie said, "It is done," and from then on, whenever I needed money, it was there. For my second wish I asked for the attention of all the most beautiful women in the world. The genie said it was done, and since then I have been able to get any woman I wanted. For my third wish, and this is the bit where I kinda fucked up, I asked for an orange for a head. A man walks into a bar and orders a scotch. I forget the joke, but your mother's a whore. Go home grandpa, you're drunk. A guy walks into a bar owned by Eminem. He tells the bartender, "Give me 2 shots of." The bartender cuts him off saying, "You only get 1 shot." A baby seal walks into a club. I'm going to hell. Baby seals are actively involved in the nightlife scene, as they are nocturnal. This is the best response in this entire thread. Also, I'm going with you. Neutron walks into a bar, orders a beer. Bartender pours one, and gives it to him. Says no charge. A related one. The bartender says, "We don't serve your kind around here." A Tachian walks into a bar. 2 good ones involving ancient Romans. Julius Caesar walks into a bar and says, "I'll have a Martinez." The bartender gives him a puzzled look and asks, "Don't you mean a martini?" "Look," Caesar retorts, "if I wanted a double, I'd have asked for it." A Roman walks into a bar, sticks 2 fingers up to the barman and says, "5 beers please." A guy walks into a bar and starts a drunken conversation with one of the patrons. "Hey, what are you drinking?" the patron asks. "Magic beer," says the guy. After arguing about it for a few minutes, the guy says, "I'll prove it to you." They go outside and walk to a nearby cliff. The guy chugs his magic beer, then jumps off. Miraculously he floats back up and settles down next to the stunned patron. The patron runs back to the bar and says to the bartender, "I want what he's having." Pointing to the guy, the patron chugs his magic beer, runs over to the cliff, and plummets to his death. The guy walks back inside smiling and orders another beer. The bartender shakes his head and says, "You know, Superman, you can be a real asshole." A guy walks into a bar and sees a sign that reads, "Cheese sandwich, $2.50. Chicken sandwich, $3.50. Hand job, $10. He checks his wallet and says to the sexy bartender, "Are you the one who gives the hand jobs?" He asks. "Yes," she purrs. "I am." "Well, wash your freaking hands," says the man. "I want a cheese sandwich." A duck walked into a bar. He asked for grapes, but they only had lemonade. He said he will return the next day. A man on a business trip found himself in a small town for a few hours, so he decided to walk around the town while he waited for his flight. After a short walk, He stumbled upon a bar with a sign outside that said, "Best punch in the county." The man was a big fan of punch and was also very thirsty, so he thought he'd check it out. He walks into the bar and goes up to the bartender and says, "I'd like a glass of your famous punch." The bartender pointed behind the man and said, "You'll have to get in line." The man turned around and there was nothing there. An old blind cowboy wanders into an all-girl biker bar by mistake. He finds his way to a bar stool and orders a shot of Jack Daniels. After sitting there for a while, he yells to the bartender, "Hey, you wanna hear a blonde joke?" The bar immediately falls absolutely silent. In a very deep husky voice, the woman next to him says, "Before you tell that joke, cowboy, I think it is only fair, given that you are blind, that you should know 5 things. The bartender is a blonde girl with a baseball bat. The bouncer is a blonde girl with a billy club. I'm a 6 foot tall, 175-pound blonde woman with a black belt in karate. The woman sitting next to me is blonde and a professional weightlifter. The lady to your right is blonde and a professional wrestler." Now, think about it seriously, cowboy. Do you still wanna tell that blonde joke? The blind cowboy thinks for a second, shakes his head and mutters, "Not if I'm gonna have to explain it 5 times. A man with authority walks into a bar. He orders everyone around. That one might be better left spoken. A blind man walks into a bar, then a table, then a chair, and then stumbled to his toolbox, where he picked up his hammer and saw. Argon walks into a bar and orders a drink. The bartender shouts, "We don't serve noble gases here." Argon doesn't react. A chemist and a mathematician walk into a bar. The chemist asks for hoe and drink it. The mathematician asks for hoe too, drink it and dies. An infinite number of mathematicians walk into a bar. The first one asks for pint, the second a half, the third a quarter, and so on. Then barman gives them 2 pints and say, "You mathematicians don't know your limits." A 3-legged dog walks into a bar and says, "I'm looking for the man that shot my paw. Terribly awesome." A priest, a Baptist, and a rabbi walk into a bar and start getting sloshed. They decide that they need to test their faith to see which one is the best. They decide the ultimate challenge is to see if they can convert a bear. So the next day they all go out into the wood to try and meet up again at the bar that night. The priest comes in with a broken arm and scratches all over his body and smilingly says, "I had to run around the bear and read him the entire Bible, but he saw the light, and he was converted." The Baptist is on crutches with 2 broken legs and a broken arm and his head all bandaged. He says, "I had to wrestle that bear to the ground and baptize him in the stream, but he saw the light, and he was converted. Hallelujah." Then the rabbi gets wheeled in a full body cast. He says, "Yeah, I know. In retrospect, I probably shouldn't have started with circumcision." A ghost walks into a bar. The bartender says, "Sorry, we don't serve spirits. Every time I hear this joke I get unreasonably upset at a bar that doesn't serve spirits. What kind of fucking bar doesn't serve spirits? I imagine it'd be a pretty dead place." Okay guys, don't forget to hit that sub button, also ring that shiny bell, like and share too, and check out other videos in our channel.